Hi, I'm Stan Goldstein with Kates-Boylston Publications. As part of our KB On the Road Live series, I'm glad to be joined by Jon Lefrandt, the CEO of the Domani Group. Jon, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Stan. It's a pleasure being here. Excited for the conversation.
Yes, yes. What has the pandemic taught you about pre-need and aftercare?
Oh gosh, I think we could all probably write a book, and we'll continue to write a book for many years of what the pandemic has taught us, both about pre-need and aftercare. I'll start with aftercare first. I think that's where we saw our company saw the most robust growth and activity and learning. First and foremost, in 2020 alone, we dialogued with over 1.5 million grieving people via text messaging. And I think what I learned through that process, and we were obviously ahead of the pandemic curve, but the pandemic magnified and amplified the desire for families to communicate with funeral professionals, and turns out they really like text messaging. I think that was when we initially launched our Domanicare offering. We got some hesitancy and resistance on text messaging, that it would seem spammy, that it was not personal. And I think it's been quite the opposite. As you have families that have been, locked in and on lockdown and been in social isolation, we've all learned, right, that the touch points and using technology to communicate and connect with one another makes all the difference. And I've thought a lot about that, of just how powerful one text message really can be. And obviously that's where Domanicare's mode of communication comes from. The other thing that I've learned, though, is that we don't want spammy messages. We want messages from humans. It needs to be humans dialoguing with humans and caring about each other. And it's that ability to connect is just so powerful. So whatever you do, connection is absolutely crucial. Aftercare should not be something that is just a checklist or a checkbox on your list that you just simply check off and then move on with your life. If you have customers, hopefully you treat them and these families as customers for life, and that they are a part of your extended family network. And I think when you treat them in that way, you put more care and attention and love into the way in which you communicate with them. And it comes full circle. I think, our team, as we dialogued with those 1.5 million people, how rewarding their jobs were. It can be draining to talk to grieving families of that nature for that extended period of time. No doubt it can be hard, but every single day, my team will often just kind of share different thoughts and conversations that they've had. And it's just such an upper to realize these are the paydays. These are, when they're going through the hard time of planning their funeral and going through the services and the loss of a loved one, those are hard and dark periods. But as they come out of that, and as you can continue to hold their hand and navigate it, it can be really, really rewarding. So to sum that up, I think technology definitely is key, but do not lose sight of personalization, and don't let aftercare simply just be a checklist item, but view these people as people that are a part of your extended family, connection, community, that you should keep relationships with for a long time. So then your next question was pre-need, and what have we learned from that? Pre-need definitely was more hit in this pandemic. I think the first few months of lockdown made it very difficult because most pre-need professionals up until that point had been doing in-person meetings, whether it was at the funeral home or at the family's home, and there weren't a lot of capabilities that had been built for people to do that remotely. And a lot of awesome innovative solutions have come to the table without question. And it's been interesting. I think the last 2 months or so, as I looked at my colleagues and other agencies and that are in the pre-need space, pre-need has been on the up the last 2 months. I think last month for sure, many companies had record-breaking months, and I think April is trending in that same direction. So it's a huge positive sign for rebound. And I think what the pandemic has taught us is that we are immortal, that people will definitely die. if anything, right? Every day you turn on the news, you listen to the news radio, you open up your social media, and it talks about, death counts and hospitalizations and resources that we have available and the way the virus has spread and the long haulers and the effects that have come from that. And that our time here on this earth is limited, and that it is important to have intentional plans put in place. Again, I would echo that technology is going to be key, both through the pandemic and moving forward. I think that there is tremendous adoption of the ability to be able to do things from the comfort of your own home, from your computers, from your mobile devices. But again, not losing sight of the personalization side of it. There still needs to be a human point in all of that, because that is the business that we are in. It is people helping people. And so with both pre-need and aftercare and technology combined, people still need to be at the heart of that.
Oh, yeah. And speaking of pre-need, Domani just announced Domani Preneed.
Yeah.
What is that, and what does it mean for the future of your company?
Yeah, thanks. That's a great question. Little background on the history of just the Domani Group. Our team, it started off with just my business partner and I, Riley Facer. We had both been in the pre-need space for about 7 or 8 years apiece prior to launching the Domani Group. And some don't know, because we're most known for Domani Care, but the Domani Group initially started as a pre-need marketing agency. And that was what we started with. And we had robust goals and ambitions and plans, and are really passionate about pre-need. I often share my personal experience with loss when I was 25 and had to plan my father's funeral when he died of brain cancer at 46. And once I learned about pre-need, which was after the funeral, I was quite jealous of those folks that had a pre-arrangement in place, and how different my experience would have been had my dad and mom already put that plan in place, so that we wouldn't have had to go through that heartache and sorrow, and could have just focused more on healing. So that's always been at the heart and soul of what got me into the profession. I absolutely love it. And I think more than anything, I still think there is a lot that needs to happen in the pre-need space for us to innovate and move the ball forward. We put pause on pre-need as an agency to focus on Domanicare, because we saw such an opportunity with Domanicare, and wanted to give that the chance that it deserved to grow and develop. And I love that through that, as a company, we were able to focus more on serving people first and foremost, rather than looking at them as a sale. And that taught us incredible discipline, but it taught us, because aftercare is purely care. I mean, there's no sales transaction that's happening there. It's just simply dialogue and care, right? Pre-need is a little different. You definitely want to get the sale, and you want to be able to have them first and foremost get an intentional plan in place, but then there needs to be the funding mechanism. That still is very, very important for protection and for peace of mind for the family. So now that we've kind of gone full circle on that, and as we have looked at solutions, high and low, we still felt like we had tremendous talent. We've also added to our Domani family, and I am so proud. On our leadership team, we have over 75 years of pre-need experience on our leadership team from all sides of the house. We have phenomenal field management and training. We have awesome business development representatives. We have some of the best operations specialists in this profession, bar none. Our creatives on the marketing side are also brilliant. I can't wait for more of the profession to get to know them, obviously through conferences and things like that. But the package that we've built for Domani Preneed as it exists today is already world class. But rest assured that with Domani, we have a large commitment to innovation and technology. And I think what you've seen happen in the Domani Care space, you're going to see something even greater happen in the pre-need side of the house. And I'm excited about that. And I think that the two can complement each other. They are separate entities. They function independently of one another. But we know how to use Domani Care also as a great tool within your pre-need efforts. And so we're excited to bring that to market. We definitely have a few great firms that have come on as early adopters, but the interest has been huge. We have been very, very busy over the last 30 days or so, hitting the ground and telling our story and talking about how we can help. And I think that's the other thing is we're looking to be a partnership in this. We know that It's not a plug and play method. You know, what works in Southern California is not going to work in rural Missouri. And so it needs to be a little different methodology for each way, but we have a phenomenal toolbox with resources that can help anyone in the country.
Yeah, let's talk about aftercare a little bit. That's what Domani's known for. What about Domanicare makes it so special?
Oh gosh, I mean, I kind of mentioned that in the first question. And I tell my people this all the time. I tell our partners this all the time. And anyone that starts with Domani Care, they go, oh, this sounds like a good idea. But until you get that very first report where we have full transcripts of every dialogue that happens on behalf of our team and on behalf of the funeral home with those aftercare families, it's a wow moment. I mean, people just are shocked and amazed. I think there's some guilt of, wow, I can't believe we haven't been doing this more before. But then there's this doubling down and this commitment to doing it in the future. And so what is the secret sauce? Certainly it's powered by technology, and the system that we built is robust and it's able to handle insane amounts of volume with very little error, if any. I mean, we are a well-oiled machine that is functioning phenomenally well. But it's the people at the end of the day that are the heartbeat of that. We have a team of about 18 people on the Domani Care team, and they are phenomenal. I mean, these individuals have hearts of gold with just a desire to help and assist in any way that they possibly can. They see so much fulfillment out of that. They as a team are close and tight knit. They help and support one another. They fill in the gaps. We make sure that we are staffed to be able to handle those conversations in a promptly and timely manner. They have quality is of the utmost importance. We realize the tremendous responsibility that is being placed upon our shoulders, and we take that responsibility so seriously. And I think you see that for sure in those reports. And I think that that's where we're getting just these incredible raving fans all across this country with funeral homes and crematories and cemeteries, large and small, that are just blown away. And I think, gosh, this is our sweet spot. This is definitely our gift to the profession and our gift to the world, right? I think the team feels that, but it is the people that make the difference, without question.
Oh yeah. And how do you see pre-need and aftercare complementing each other?
That's a great question. You know, I look at the profession and what we do in funeral service in three different spectrums. I think everyone does. You have at-need, you have pre-need, and you have aftercare. And they're cyclical, right? You have your at-need that then turns into aftercare. Your aftercare can turn into pre-need, and it needs to be one complete loop that is there. And what you see, generally speaking, is we have our service providers at their locations that handle the at-need, and it's one family after the next after the next. And I've learned that they have a very sacred responsibility from the time of death and kind of that onset of grief. That's their sweet spot. That's where they are very best in the world at. And then we have this handoff that needs to happen to aftercare. And some, you know, organizations have invested much more into this than others. But I would say by and large, and this is not scientific data, but just from me asking over and over and over again to funeral professionals, on the aftercare side, a good solid 85% of professionals feel tremendous guilt for what they're doing in their aftercare program currently. It generally exists, you know, with a letter, a card, maybe at most, inviting them to an event. That's kind of the extent of where aftercare exists. Then you go into pre-need, and I think, you know, we have some great pre-need options in the country, some that do better than others. But that's there too, and they have that one-track focus. And sometimes pre-need companies have tried to do the aftercare for the funeral homes because they see that is they need to jump this gap, right, and go from at-need to pre-need, and they're missing this aftercare piece. So then pre-need sometimes tries to take on that, but it becomes very insincere oftentimes, because it seems like you're just hitting up aftercare families for another sale, and that you're just trying to get one more policy through the door. And that isn't the way it should happen, in my opinion. I think that that is an earned right that needs to happen when you have given all of the service, necessary, and you can start the conversation in a normal and a natural way, that is not salesy, that is not pushy, that is natural, that is talking about the needs of their family and their loved ones and the things that maybe went well and things that went wrong, through the planning of the funeral and things of that nature. So, to your question, how do pre-need and aftercare help each other? It's absolutely vital that they help each other, but it is also vital, just like we wouldn't expect pre-need professionals to come in and tell at-need what to do in their business. I think the same thing is true with pre-need and aftercare. And so that's why we have made the intentional decision and plan. Our leadership, our technology, our systems, the entity itself, they are separate. They are removed. Domanicare is a separate entity entirely. And that is 100% the truth. And our pre-need is separate. But we want the two masters of that to be able to reach across the aisle to help each other to make that transition a little bit better. And obviously that hasn't been done, I don't think, that I'm aware of, really, in this profession. You kind of have this aftercare and this pre-need and these separate entities. But we really wanted to be intentional about that, to keep aftercare pure, but then also get aftercare and pre-need more in alignment with each other. So what you'll see in the months and years to come, I think, is going to be really, really remarkable, because that was a big gap that needed to be filled. So we're excited to have that be more of a smooth transition as it goes around, and not so jarring for the families where they're diving right into pre-need maybe prematurely.
Right. And why should funeral homes invest in proactive aftercare and pre-need solutions like Domani's instead of more passive options?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Gosh, I've met so many funeral homes owners and directors and staff all across this country, both in person and remote. And it's hard to give an answer to the profession at large, which I realize that's kind of the audience here, Stan. And I think that when it talks about, more of a proactive approach versus a passive approach, all too often, I think we can all accomplish more than we actually can. And I think funeral professionals for years kept that all within one rooftop of just, they all handled the pre-need, the aftercare, and the at-need all themselves. That has become increasingly more difficult. And if they're honest with themselves and they look internally and they see what is the health level of my pre-need and my aftercare programs, the majority of them are not satisfied with the results, truly. And there is tremendous guilt that they could be doing more. Now, instead of the guilt that they should feel, I would hope that they would turn that into action and opportunity, and that they would look internally and say, who can actually help me with this? And find a true partnership in that. Again, this isn't just transactions and dollars and cents. This is people helping people, right? So yeah, proactive, I think, is crucial. You got to stay on top of this game and in your business strategy, because, well, aftercare, what we do with Domanicare, obviously Google reviews is a huge part. And I talked to them about their Google review ranking, and funeral homes are not aware of how important Google reviews are to their business in 2021. They have not even thought about it, and they are so far behind the curve on that. So that is what I would say from a proactive approach to more of a passive approach. How is your passive approach working? Be honest with yourself. Look in the mirror and say, is passive actually yielding the results that I want it to yield? Yes or no? My guess is a good 85% of you are going to say, I could absolutely be doing more. Stop putting it off and find somebody today. Domani Preneed, we have the bandwidth and the capacity to be able to help you. But there's also other good organizations that are out there that can help also. And I would say get the help that you need and get that program up in tip-top shape. I think it's absolutely crucial. I think we need to be proactive. I know we need to be proactive, and that the companies that aren't being proactive in this day and age, gosh, I think things could change pretty drastically for your business. And it's not the way it was 20 years ago. It's very, very different today. You've got to stay on top of it to stay in business.
All right, John, and how many people get in contact with you or Domani?
How do they get in contact with me?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
You can contact me any way you'd like. We have a few different websites. DomaniPreneed.com, so DOMANI Preneed.com is our newest website. We have an awesome new launch video, kind of talks about our model that's down there that I highly recommend that you go see. But with all of our entities, both Domani Care, Domani for Grief, and Domani Preneed, you can find those on thedomanigroup.com. But I always, with these things, love putting my personal info out there. I know that I'm maybe rare in this, but feel free to call or text me too. My cell phone number is 503-201-5975, and I will respond to you, I promise. And then the second one is my email address, and that's Jon, Jon, at thedomanigroup.com. And again, it's DOMANI group.com. But happy to keep this conversation going, happy to be of help if I can, and also looking forward to learning with you, because in order for us to do our job right, we need to learn what's going on the front lines, and that's where all of these wonderful funeral professionals are. But really looking forward to keeping the conversation going.
Great. Jon, always interesting to hear what you have to say. Thank you very much, and have a good day. Thank you.
Stan, appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Bye.